3R, right message to the right customer at the right time. Who has heard about 3R before? Show of hands. Okay, who has seen a successful implementation of 3R? Exactly. So in my experience, and I'm into sport analogies, that's gonna be the one of the first ones. 3R is important is because it makes money. It's the best and fastest way to really commercialize the data that you have. But what I'm going to be talking to you about is not just the data, but the things surrounding it that you need to make happen before you can successfully make money out of data. Sporting analogies-wise, this is my personal best in terms of nominal terms. 350 million of incremental growth that we have done for a bank in the US about 3 years ago, and that's over a period of 2 years with some very humble beginnings. So why is so? The problem begins, and I will tell you about 4 layers that you need to tackle in order to make 3R happen. So the problem obviously is proliferating channels. You used to, Travis, where's Travis? Excellent presentation yesterday, thank you for that. I loved your slide about proliferation of channels. Started in 1823, 53 with a bill posted on a lamppost. Obviously, you know, you can take Qantas. Qantas in the 1980s just had their agents. Then they started adding a call center, and sometime in the middle of the 90s, this internet thing came along, and then they started showing the prices to the wide public. Then they started making this web thing two-edged. Qantas was the first company in Australia that used email successfully as a commercial tool. Ian Good, sitting somewhere here, did that in 1999. So channels are proliferating. Social channels, you used to say social, now it's not just social, MySpace, and Facebook. There is Instagram, and there are things that the kids are running around with that we probably haven't heard yet, but there are pockets of people that are very excited about these. Now, the problem with all those proliferating channels is that each one of them will tend to send you a different message. Anytime that you try to target things, it ends up being everybody targeting their own thing. So the email guy sitting there is going to be sending emails on the targeting that he believes is right. And instead of that person receiving an email and then going to the website, not clicking through, but independently, getting that particular message, they might actually get a completely different message about a different product, a different offer that is meant for a different customer segment, because that particular channel manager had a different idea about what is the right message. Brands need to start acting across the customer journey and picking up all those crumbs of data that are around them, and then just taking people across their customer journey. And this is a framework that I start using. It replaces the top of this customer decision journey, as it's called. Basically, this is your old funnel. It's the consider, evaluate, buy stage. It doesn't end there, though. Most of the brand interactions for people come after they have purchased products. My previous employer, some guys have done research that 50% of women will continue researching the face cream that they bought online after the purchase. So all of this experience of the product and the things that you're being, the messaging that you're getting after you have purchased the product might make you become an advocate for the product. Obviously, it's great if this is a positive advocacy, but anybody familiar with the Comcast example from about 5 years ago? Show of hands? No? So about 5 years ago, if you Googled Comcast in the US, which is the largest cable provider, you would have gotten a YouTube video of a Comcast technician asleep on somebody's couch. The guy came in, sat down, fell asleep. 45 minutes later, after filming him for a while, they woke him up. this is not the best advocacy that your brand needs to tackle. And because of the Google algorithm, that thing stayed on top for like a year. So it's all about trying to figure out, are you, once the person becomes hopefully positive advocate, hopefully they're not going to go again through this consideration, evaluation, and purchase cycle, but again we'll go through what I call a loyalty loop, and we'll go through this bond stage. For example, Toyota and Lexus, they do that loyalty loop very well. Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. You do not decide to have a Coke after you have had a Coke. I need a Coke beverage. You do not decide, well, should I go with Pepsi? Should I go Coke? You're either a Pepsi person or you're a Coke person. Or hopefully you don't drink this crap. So this is really the first layer of that puzzle, is the channel and content. This is the layer that is closest to the customer. You can imagine customers sitting at the top of that pyramid. Now, what really needs to happen in order to make this channel and content well-informed, serving the right message to the right customer at the right time, is data and analytics. Now, every single customer interaction creates data. You serve somebody a message with a call to action, that person clicks on it, that's a piece of data. That person doesn't click on it, that's a piece of data too. So the aim is really to get all the data structured in a way and closing the feedback loop, so every single customer interaction here feeds in through your data layer and then back to the channel and content. So every single customer interaction improves the next interaction. Now, what's the way to make it happen? So normally the way where you would start is you would mash all that data together. Some great presentations over the course of today that talked about aspects of that. So you would put all of this data into a 360 customer view that would combine all the transaction history you might have on a person, all the service you might have on them, the campaign response, their channel behavior when they're browsing. You might plug in Tipstone. That is absolutely incredible source of data for so many people. In the US, you probably would plug in Blue Kai. You might consider Experian or some other providers. Now, the only thing, if there's one thing that I want you to remember from this presentation, is be pragmatic. Just don't worry about creating a Rolls-Royce. A 20-year-old Toyota Corolla is going to get you from point A to point B way more than building 15% of a Rolls-Royce. So, example. I once did a project for a bank in the US 3 years ago. This is, and we arrived, and we are actually part of this project in the initial scope was, we want you guys to start sending some targeted messages to people. So we said, well, lovely, could I please have a single customer view, because I want to understand these people well to actually serve them the great messages. And they said, well, we're actually building a single customer view. Accenture and Teradata are partnering. We're paying them $36 million. It's going to be awesome. We're taking 80 different data sources, 2,500 variables that will be fed real time to this 360 view and will be made available to anybody in the organization that wants to act on it, to do something with it. And I said, great, can I please have the keys? And they said, well, not quite, because it's going to take them 24 months. The project just got signed off. And I said, well, that's not making news. I'm out. This project finishes in 4 months, and I need to show you guys that we can make you some money. So what we've done instead is we took 3 data sources. We didn't even take all the variables from those data sources. We took 80. And obviously now I'm telling the story as if we took the 80 because we were highly selective about the variables. Not true. The $8,000 server that we bought could not take more variables. So we literally bought a physical, it was, in this day and age, we would just go to the cloud, but it was a bank, super conservative, data security people. We literally bought a box that got plugged into the rack space. We bought a $4,000 license. Somebody who uses SaaS probably will tell me that actually the prices of SaaS licenses went up to $5.5 grand since then. And we spent the next 6 weeks building this 360 customer view. Now, what the impact was that after the further 2 months of running with that customer view, we made these guys $65 million. Obviously, the Accenture and Teradata guys were still at the drawing stage, and let's try to do something. Now, fast forward 2 years, the guy that was running the project on JP Morgan's side, you know, we've been through hell and back together, so he's a good friend by now. He was visiting Sydney last year, and we asked him, how much money are you guys making? So we had plans that we would increase this $65 million to $200 million. And the second in charge of the bank told us that we're smoking crack. So tell me, where are we smoking crack? And Robert said, well, we did, because we're actually at 350. So pragmatic works. Now, in order to make both of these layers really work, you need to have the right technology. The marketing cloud that we're talking about is part of it. You need to cover all your aspects. You can have the most targeted message created somewhere in the database, and if you do not deliver it on time in the latency that the ad serving unit will require, not gonna matter anything. If your emails, instead of reaching people at 1 p.m. as you're planning, because this is the window that you believe that the person is going to read them, if your email engine actually doesn't have a capability to target people by time, and those emails just get delivered randomly over the course of 24 hours after you press enter, that's a problem. And this is a graph that to be honest, I was half hoping that more people would have. Travis, there was one conference where this got presented 14 times by 14 different people. Hope, fingers crossed, maybe there will be more. So it is bloody complicated. And the problem is that a lot of you in the room might actually understand what those things are, but CEOs or CFOs that are signing those things off really do not. So you have to be super pragmatic in explaining to people what it is that you're trying to do before they actually agree to do anything. I think that technology is super simple, and I love the bring your own cloud. I'm going to adopt it, Travis, and start selling it as copyrighted by Travis. It really is a jigsaw puzzle, and you do not have to have the best thing that is out there. You just want to have something that's going to work and going to work quickly. 10 years ago, if you wanted to have an A/B testing solution, that could have taken a team of 10 people, 6 months to build something out. You literally had to build it from scratch. These days, you have Optimizely that for $71 a month will do 20,000 tests for you. And it's literally as easy as dropping a line of code onto your website. And you know what? If you're sitting here in Sydney or Melbourne and you don't like Optimizely after those 20,000 tests, latency is not quite right, the interface seems weird, I just don't like it, screw that. Pull out that one piece of code and plug in something else. It literally is as easy as taking a line of code. So last but not least, organization. You can have greatest technology in the world, greatest data analytics in the world, best designed customer engagement strategies. It's not going to matter a single bit if you do not have your organization right. So I once sat in a meeting with a CEO of a second largest P&L of a largest cable company in the US and his CMO. CEO, very friendly. CMO did not want us to be there. It's like, here's my territory. I don't want you guys in my room. So we're walking her through you know, best-in-class practices about channel and content, data analytics, and no, we don't need you guys. We have Accenture building us a great 360 customer view, great customer engagement, great technology. We really don't need you guys in this room. We finally get to organization, and my asset test for organization is a single question. How many tests did you run last week? Just last week. So show of hands, who ran more than 50 tests last week? There we go. I want to talk to you. You're the first person in Australia. Organization-wise, that lady got very red, the CMO got very red and said, 17 tests last month. Last month we ran 17 tests. I'm like, wow, I know your marketing spend numbers. I know how big your size of your team is. Given that, I would hope that you would be launching 80 to 100 tests every week. So she goes red, the CEO goes jittery. Like, whoa, 80 a week, 17 a month. Like, that's not even an order of magnitude different. That's 2 or 3 orders of magnitude different. So I continue going for the kill. So tell me, how many of these tests succeeded? And she's like, oh, very high success rate, 15 of them succeeded. I'm like, that's my point. Unless 70% of all your tests are failing, you're not pushing hard enough. And to be honest, after I learned a little bit more about their organization, I was not surprised that they were doing 17 a month. To be honest, given the setup they had, 17 a month was bloody awesome. But the problems that you normally run into those organizations is the fact that people that need to be there to make marketing happen are not sitting in the same room. It's lucky if they sit on the same floor, and I've been in situations where they sat not in different cities, but in different states. The bank I worked with had their IT department in Ohio, and their credit card marketing split between Delaware and New York. And it's pretty hard to work when you're separated like this. No sense of organization urgency. It's something that corporates suffer a lot from. It's just, it's hard. Oh, I need to run an extra test, but we're going to hit our budget anyway. Can we just put it on the parking lot? You know, there is cricket starting. And you get to that stage, it's sort of hard to turn around this culture. At the end of the day, you want to have highly performing team. You want to get a bunch of guys who are super energetic. Guys and girls, sorry. The lack of prioritization of initiatives. You start running around and start saying, well, here are 100 things that I want to do. Unless you prioritize ruthlessly and based on data, you're not gonna succeed. And the biggest problem is the risk aversion culture. Nobody likes failing. Nobody wants to come up to their boss and say, oh, you know the test that we ran? They didn't do that well. So 7 of them failed, and only 2 of them succeeded. But that's one message. Another message might be, those 7 failed, it cost me $2,000. Those 2 succeeded and made me a shitload of money. So in my experience, it's the journey to turn around the culture of organization is anything from 2 to 6 months just to start seeing some impact. It all depends on the size of the team. But it's all about those small behavioral changes. Any cycling enthusiasts here? Show of hands. So some of the cycling enthusiasts might be familiar with Dave Brailsford's theory of marginal improvements. Brailsford was a guy who in 2010 was given a job of Sky Team, professional cycling team manager, and a goal of winning Tour de France in 5 years. And the guy looked around and said, shit, I'm screwed. Normally, if you get given a job and a goal like this, you sort of look around and say, oh, this guy used to be world champion in juniors. I'm just going to throw all my money at him, all my attention at him. Chances are, if he keeps going, he's going to be the guy when he hits seniors as well. He didn't have that comfort. And so what he has done is he took his team and basically said, I'm going to improve every single fucking thing that I can improve, I will. 1% improvements. For example, they realized we spend a lot of time on the road traveling in hotels. Sleep, pretty important for an athlete. Good sleep, very important for an athlete. Pillows tend to affect the way in which we sleep. So they tested 7 pillows and how good the sleep the cyclists are getting afterwards. They picked the ones that worked for particular athletes, and these were the ones that they would take with them to the, when they were on the road. They tested different massage gels, because when you cycle a lot, you get massages every day, and the recovery, that increases the recovery rates. Recovery rates were different depending on what massage gel they were using. So they picked the tested and picked the best one. They used to waste a lot of time or not have the top performance during the times that the cyclists would get colds. So they said, the best thing that we can do to prevent the colds, wash hands properly, 20 seconds of hand washing, warm water, you sing the happy birthday or whatever is the song that you were taught, and then you use the antibacterial cream. The colds dropped off, top performance during this time. They cut the weight of the tires by 12 grams each. Every single thing that he could have changed, he did. Why is it important? It's because when you take 1% gain to the power of n, you actually start getting this geometrical curve. And while it might take you to improve by 1, whatever is the unit, you need 69 things in the upfront when you start, but you only need 16 when you hit 200. So think about what are the 200 things that you can, doesn't really cost you much. If anybody familiar with Six Sigma and Lean Way, this is what these guys are doing. The reason why Toyota has been winning in the market is because every single thing that they can change, they will improve in a way that it's going to continue being fixed forever. And anybody from the janitor to the CEO is in charge of maintaining that Six Sigma, that if they see something broken, they need to fix it, and they need to ensure that it doesn't happen again. This is not rocket science. Transforming organization is not rocket science. You just need a program to make it happen. Your data might be most beautiful. If people in the organization are not using it, what use is it? You might as well just do something different. So test and learn. Explicit expectation that 70% of your tests will fail. In my experience, the minute you push it to 70% of tests failing, the 20% will continue getting your status quo ROI, what you used to be getting, but this 10% is going to make you a superhero and a rock star. We run in terms of sporting analogies, and another personal best that I'm quite proud of, although it was for a gossip magazine. I learned a lot about Kim Kardashian. As a person that hasn't owned TV since 2002, that was quite a shock to me what's going on in those papers. We improved their online conversion by 40%, that's 40, in 2 months. We ran 47 tests for them, took us a bit time to ramp up. Over those 2 months, we ran 47 tests for them. 90% of that gain came from 4 tests. You wouldn't believe how stupid were the things that we changed. If I told you, you would not believe me. But we changed them. We thought, well, yeah, maybe. Doesn't cost us. Failing in digital is cheap. You can launch 100 tests on Monday and have half of them pulled out of the market by midday, and that will still provide you a valuable learning lesson. Increased expectations of the pace of execution. That's basically, I don't know what's politically correct way of getting people to fucking do their job. And yeah, sitting around doing nothing, probably you want to find yourself a different team. The thing is, if people have expectations, you know what? Today we're going to run 20 tests. It's like with packing. I find that with packing, packing will take you as long or as much time as you leave to do it. If you tell your people, today we're launching 20 tests, 80-20, you guys, we need 20 tests launched today. Those people will make it happen. You run a hackathon, people will build you a minimum viable product in 48 hours because that's how much time we have. That's what we're going to plan for it. Trust me, those tests that you run in 80-20 manner, fast with people, will make people excited about coming to work again. How do you make it happen with so many tests? So we're talking about war rooms. Steve Jobs famously said that there is a right size for every team, and it's probably smaller than you think. So the way in which we operate is the agile startup, is the 3H way: hacker, hipster, hustler. You start with one of your two hackers. Your data analyst is going to get some data, run some segmentation, and say, oh, 42 segments, we're underpenetrated for products 1 and 2 in those 17 segments. Look, what can we do with it? It goes then to the hustler, the marketer, the single throat to choke. It's not a project manager. I hate project managers. When nuclear holocaust happens, there will be two things left in the world: cockroaches and content-free process facilitators. I hate content-free process facilitators. You either know what you're doing, or you go and find yourself a job with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. The marketer would say, oh, very interesting. This is in line with our strategy for segments A and B, and in line with the budget that we have approved with CEO. Let's run those campaigns like that. Then it goes to hipsters. The copywriter will write some cool copy. The designer will design something cool for email, something cool for 350 by 300 unit, and then maybe another ad unit here, and maybe another ad unit there. Then it's going to go to the programmer. Very important to have a front-end person sitting on your team, hopefully back-end as well, that is going to program it into the front-end, whatever it is, put it in CMS, and put all the tracking codes in. Basically, so after you press that button, the data comes back to the data analyst, and he can say, oh, it worked for these people, didn't work for these people, what's the next loop, what's the next iteration? Heavy use of analytics. So I keep talking, there are two, if you think about philosophy for 3R, there are really two things. There is digital channels, and there is data. In terms of what you need to remember from digital channels is ruthlessly test. You do not do anything unless you test. And there are ways to go around it. There are ways to test stuff in store, out of store. You do not do anything unless you test it. CEO of Harrah's, which is now Caesars, famously said that there are 3 ways to get fired from, it was then Harrah's: money embezzlement, sexual harassment, and running a test without a control sample. So heavy use of analytics. Every single thing that you do is data-driven. This allows you to, Datalicious, lovely graph, ROIs. This allows you to, heavy use of analytics basically allows you to sort every single thing that you're planning to do, and you say, that's the ROI on this one, I'm gonna do this one first before I move on to the next best ROI and the third best ROI. And by the way, I'm talking about the age of infinite marketing budget. We're going to decide what is our ROI benchmark, to which stage we're going to feel comfortable spending, and we're going to do all of these things. And if it requires $100 million marketing investment, who cares if we're making 300? So that definitely changes the conversation between the CMO and CFO. But the reason why the conversation changed, because CFOs normally are thinking, well, yeah, you famously told me that 50% of your marketing budget fails. You just don't know which half. Well, actually, we do. It's 21st century, and we can pinpoint exactly which stuff is working and which is not. And you know what? We do want to spend away some money for testing, and we know that this is the stuff that is not working. We want to keep it there. It allows us very valuable lessons to feed to others. Visual management, dashboards. Dashboards are all the rage. I sat at the SDW data conference 2 months ago, and as a joke, we were hoping to count the number of times that big data gets mentioned. It only got mentioned 4 times. Dashboards. Dashboards were all the rage. I think it was like 37. Everybody loves dashboards. It allows people who have the smarts and the analytical minds to give the data to other people that are less analytically savvy, and for them to say, oh, crap, this is that big? I love, oh, didn't know. Daily morning huddles and check-ins. How many people have a daily stand-up in the morning? That's just horrible. I can tell you. So any of those people that haven't raised their hands, I can guarantee that I can raise your EBITDA by 10% in 18 months. Guarantee. I will bet my bonus on it. Publicly announced. Anybody, please take me up on this. Why is this important? As I said, this is right message to the right customer at the right time. In my experience, you're talking 10 to 20% increase in EBITDA over 18 to 24 months. This is probably for a B2C company. Out of the Australian market, I probably would not claim that for the 4 of the big banks, because that would just be crazy. But if you're a company outside ASX 50, that's plain vanilla. These are the goals that you should be having in front of you. That's about it. Do ping me if you have any questions. It's been a pleasure talking and looking forward to chatting to you all later.